5 o'clock in Pirate Country, and it's time to get pumped up with the P-Man. Hit the door and hit the road. 94.3 The Game is going to get you home, and the P-Man's not holding back.
Yes! Yes! Pirates win! Pirates win!
Bring on the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
Holy mackerel! Oh, my goodness!
The flagship station of the ECU Pirates.
And a very pleasant hello to everybody. Patrick Johnson here with you on the Patrick Johnson Show. It's nice to have you along right here on a Thursday as we have a huge show today. We're going to talk with John Feinstein, best-selling author, friend of the program.
Do it live!
And we are indeed doing that today. The one and only Dom Kasolki
I think we're going to lose.
is producing today's program. For a brief moment, I wasn't sure if Dom was with us. But he is.
Okay.
You didn't quite put the scare in everybody that you did on Saturday. But,
I scared everybody that day.
Hear from you. Well, I'm glad you're here, Tom.
I'm glad to be here. Good to see you.
All right. Well, we got a lot to get to today. We got a pirate report with a lot of cuts. We got Feinstein. So let's not dilly-dally. Let's start with today's pirate report.
And now, Patrick Johnson with today's Pirate Report on the flagship station of the ECU Pirates, 94.3 The Game.
All right. Let's start with Johnny Kirkpatrick here. How he liked the way that the team has started offensively their last couple of games.
I was very happy with the way we started. You know, the last two games, we've had 5 possessions in the first quarter between the two games. Well, we had 14 seconds left. We got a third possession. I don't count that because we had 14 seconds. And we've played really well in those. We've scored on 4 of the 5. We missed a field goal, or we would have scored 5 out of 5. So I think that's one of the things that is why Alex is the guy going out there first right now. Is if you look back, you know, Appalachian, Gardner-Webb, it was the second drive. Rice, it was the first drive. He started well. So, yeah, we got to practice the second quarter, the third quarter, and the fourth quarter now because we are coming out, which tells me we're ready to play. The kids are still into it. You know, things are good. We're not that far off. You know, sometimes you can still – not win and get the results you want, but not be that far away.
More from Donnie Kay, and he talks about that the offensive line is starting to come together.
The last 2 weeks, the offensive line has started to play like we had hoped they would. And, you know, that's a lot slower than everybody wanted, slower than they've wanted it to do. I think it's been a couple of things. I think we have adjusted what we're doing up front a little bit. We're helping them out in some pass protections. We're maybe doing some blocking schemes that fit them a little bit better. I think finally just the chemistry and the continuity of playing the same 5 guys together has started to kick in. And you know, you want that to be quicker, but you want that to be in spring practice and then through summer and preseason camp, and we didn't have that luxury to do that. And so, like I say, you know, there are no excuses. You are what you are. Your record is what you are. It's just taken us longer, but they are starting to play well. Physically, I thought we held up against Tulane.
More from Donnie Kay. Everybody in the fan base wants this question asked. The media obliged yesterday if Raheem Jeter will play at all.
I'd love to. I wish we could play more games. You know what I'm saying? I wish we could play the game and then, you know, have another little scrimmage afterwards or whatever, so you could develop these guys. You know, you just can't. You're in a 3-point game or a tied game at half, you know, and that's not the place to put him in. You know, I think if we did that, I think the rest of the players would go like, "Are you serious?" You know, and nothing against Raheem. I'm just thinking they're thinking like, hey, it's 10-10 out here. You know, we're going against the conference champions. We got a chance to win.
And we hear on Cut 12 about the players influencing the quarterback decision with the play around the quarterback from Donnie Kirkpatrick.
I have felt like they've really made the decision probably more than, say, me or Coach Houston has. I believe it's the players. I think they're playing better around him right now, and that's nothing against Mason. Mason just had an unbelievably great practice out there today. I was just walking off the field. I was going like, dang, Okay, that's the Mason I know right there. Just be that guy right there. So someday he'll get his chance again. Everybody knows that it comes back around. You better be ready, or then you don't get another chance. But I think Alex, right? Alex was the captain for the game.
And the team's sticking together. Donnie Kirkpatrick says they are.
This team, I've been on teams that we were in it, like 7 wins, and it's by the end of the year you're kind of like, wow, it's getting miserable. You know what I'm saying? And this team is not that way. They like each other. I guess they respect each other. They must treat each other well. Again, Coach Houston's culture is in there. I know we've taken a bad turn right here after we were at boom, 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 boom. But like I say, we're not that far off, and the thing is not in that bad a shape. I know we're not scoring enough points. That's the bottom line.
And now to Blake Harrell in today's Pirate Report. He talks about the leading receiver for FAU, LaJohntay Wester.
I think he leads all of NCAA football in receptions, 84, 87 receptions, over 1,000 yards in 9 football games. And certainly they work the football to him all the time. I think he has 121 targets, 33 of those on third down. Just a lot of different ways to get the football to him, and that doesn't include the handoffs and reverses he's getting. So he is definitely their go-to guy. We better know where he's at all times and pay a lot of attention to him. The thing they do that's unique with him is he don't just play to the field or to the boundary. They move him around, motion him around, stack him around, and find different ways to create matchups and problems for you. So, we've been doing a really good job in practice of identifying who number one is and working hard to make sure we know where he's at all times and find different ways to maybe double him up and get different guys on him.
All right, and the secondary for the Pirates really banged up right now. It is talked about by Coach Blake here in this cut.
T and Wilk, Omar Rogers out, and you have to move in Julius Wood around. Dontavius Nash is playing his first couple of games and getting comfortable right there, and you saw a huge improvement. Jordan Huff, requiring more snaps out of him, and I think those guys have done a really nice job back there. Obviously missing some guys, but I think those guys are stepping up, and you've seen them get more and more comfortable as the season goes on. Joyce is now playing it'll be his 4th game at the boundary safety. You can see him more comfortable. Dontavius and Jordan, the role for them is even bigger, and you see them taking that on, and you see their athleticism.
Let's see. We could talk about, speaking of injuries, the Jack Powers injury, and this is what Blake Harrell had to say.
When a young man like Jack Powers pours so much in this program and so much in our team and cares so much about this game, and you see him go down, it breaks your heart. Just because it means so much to him, this team means so much to him, and he's put a lot into it. And, feel for him because that's his last snap. And you never know as an athlete when that last snap is, so we always talk about, playing every snap like it's your last snap. And, Jack certainly played that way and certainly did last Saturday. And I think even after, tore his pec there, played a couple more snaps and tried to go as much as he could. But Sam Dank is ready for the opportunity. And he has been, and we've been working him in, and he certainly, will step up this Saturday and play big for us. There's no doubt in my mind.
All right, there you go. Let's head now to Coach, who talks about the Pirate defensive line in some more detail.
That D-tackle, D-line room has really stepped up the last couple of weeks. I mean, you've seen sacks out of those guys, and even in situations when they're having to bring pressure or bring guys, and they're getting sacks, beating guys one-on-one. And like you said, not only the way he's played on the field the last couple of weeks, but the energy, the leadership, those guys, and especially him in that room, bring to our football team and bring to our defense. They don't flinch. They come to work every single day knowing they got a job to do. Something bad happens, hey, it's next snap mentality. Something good happens, it's next snap mentality. And Big Tay's been right there in the middle of it, and been a big part of why at times defensively played really well this year on defense.
All right, there it is, today's Pirate Report. Great job there, Dom. We'll hear more from Dom in a little bit, but when we come back, excited to talk about college expansion with the American and really college football. We'll talk about the death of Bob Knight, all of that with best-selling author John Feinstein, who joins us after these words on the PJ Show. 94.3 The Game, 94.3thegame.com, and the IBX Media app.
2024s are moving in, which means 2023s are moving out. It's the model year-end move out at Greenville Toyota. Shop new RAV4s, $289 a month. Even save on the all-new Camry, also $289 a month. At Greenville Toyota, where our volume saves you money.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked to order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
At GoEco, we don't just supply the office space. We create solutions for any environment. Our state-of-the-art commercial-grade video display is perfect for watching film with the team. From film study to the field, elevate your game with GoEco.
Storm season is approaching. North Carolina weather can damage your roof, and before long, a small leak can turn into a big problem. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so protect it with Wells Home Improvements.
We work with all insurance companies for a hassle-free roof installation experience. Call us today and get 10% off your roof installation when you mention this commercial.
252-227-8403 or visit us online at wellshomeimprovements.com. Wells Home Improvements. Local, honest, dependable.
The 2024s are here and the 2023s need to move. It's the model year-end move out at Greenville Toyota. Move in on new Tacomas just $299 a month. Plus, get the Greenville Advantage at Greenville Toyota, where our volume saves you money.
You ready for this?
Oh, I'm very ready. Okay, ready?
You ready?
Streaming to the world at 943thegame.com. This is the Patrick Johnson Show. Now in all his glory, here's the P-Man.
It is always a treat whenever we get a chance to talk to John Feinstein. He's back with me today here on the show. John, great to talk to you. Hope all's well.
Thank you, Patrick. I hope all's well with you, too.
It is kind of a crummy football record for
Yep.
East Carolina this year, but, hope springs eternal as we live and die with this stuff week to week as fans. So there you go.
Yeah, it's funny because, I still do pregame stuff for Navy, and I was shocked when they fired Kenny Matalolo last year, as I think everybody was. And with the league being reconfigured this year, I thought Navy would have a better year than they did the last couple of years, but then they turn around and lose to Temple last week. So how do you predict anything?
Yeah. It's interesting, I'm going to ask you a little bit about Army joining this league in a minute. We'll talk Navy and some other things, but let's start with the latest domino that kind of prompted this from the American, the Pac-12 imploding.
Right.
And then you wind up with teams going to the Big Ten, which will make that a better conference, I believe. And then what's happened with the ACC? The ACC that we all know and love. It's not 8 teams gathering in Greensboro any longer for a 3-day tournament.
That's long gone. That's long gone. I think they're going to start the basketball tournament on Valentine's Day this year because they have so many teams now. But what's gone on in big-time college football and basketball. One of the reasons I'm doing a book right now on the Ivy League, besides the Ivy League football, besides the fact that the kids are great interviews, as you would expect, is that I know the Ancient Eight will always be the Ancient Eight, and there's no other conference really that you can say that about. Stanford and Cal and SMU and the ACC. Are you kidding me? And as you said, my editor at the Post joked with me that he wanted me to cover the first USC Maryland Big Ten Conference game, and I said only if you get me parking. But USC and Maryland and Rutgers and UCLA in the same conference? I mean, seriously? Everybody wrote, well, we saw the last Bedlam game last week between Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. Well, that's a damn shame.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Texas and Oklahoma is one of the few traditional rivalries that hasn't gone away. And unfortunately, I guess it won't when they both go to the SEC because they'll be in the same league.
When I talked to the commissioner at the Clemson Florida State game a few weeks ago, and obviously this had just happened. He was talking it up. Then they've released the schedule since then. And they have the ACC has tried to preserve some rivalries. I would think Tobacco Road, by and large, has done pretty well from a Duke perspective because you still have UNC Wake and North Carolina. I'm just thinking about football is one thing to a degree. Men's basketball, even a lesser degree. Women's basketball is one thing. But, I mean, we're talking about sending all these teams to God knows where in the middle of the week. It's for a 2-hour deal. We've lost our minds.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is, let's remember that field hockey and soccer and swimming and baseball, they don't fly on charter airplanes.
Correct.
They're going to have to deal with everything that we deal with when we fly commercially. And like you said, in the middle of the school year, what's that going to do to the so-called student athletes? By the way, anytime an administrator calls student athletes, make sure you know where your wallet is. But there's no more corrupt term in sports than student athlete. It's redundant for one thing. By rule, you have to be a student in order to be a college athlete. But it's also the way that all these people try to convince you that amateurism still exists. And it does in field hockey and soccer and swimming and baseball, even with NIL. But it doesn't exist in football. It doesn't exist in men's basketball. Let's be honest. And so anyway, I hate all of this realignment. I think most of us do. And it's not, as the athletic director says, I'm sure Jim Phillips told you this was a great thing for the student athlete. It's
yes.
a great thing for schools to make more money. It's all money. And you know what? I wouldn't have a problem with that if they just admitted.
Right.
We're doing it for the money. But they won't. They're a bunch of hypocrites.
The big pushback we get from administrators and coaches is, they begrudgingly have accepted NIL, but they still
Supreme Court ruled on it.
Sure, but they still have this it sticks in their craw over the portal. Boy, and look, I'm all for an empowering of the athletes. It's good that they're getting something. It's turned into fantasy free agency in a lot of cases, but it's good they get something. The NCAA is too inept to put any guardrails. They just don't have the guts or the stomach to do it. So we're heading for that discrepancy between those at the very, very top, even those in the ACC and perhaps in the American and the Ivies. I mean, it's really going to get out of whack here more so than it already is. And that's not a good thing, I don't think, John.
I went to my first college basketball game of the season Monday. It was McNeese State versus VCU. There were 19 transfers in the game.
Yeah.
19. 11 from McNeese and 8 from VCU. VCU's 7 leading scorers from last year, 6 of whom were underclassmen, are no longer there. Only 1 senior graduated among those 7. And this is routine now. I mean, you see, if you watch a game on TV, you hear when a player is shooting free throws or whatever, you say, well, He played a year here. He played 2 years there. And then he went to a junior college, and now he's here.
Yeah.
And that's routine. And, it used to be in the ACC, you remember those days, Patrick, when almost no one had transfers.
Yeah.
And if you had one, you had one. And Dean Smith probably had 5 transfers in his entire life. But now it's all different, obviously. You have to get players from the transfer portal if you're going to survive. Billy Lang, who was the coach at St. Joseph's, told me the other day, and I would never have known this stat. There are 354 Division I men's basketball. He says St. Joe's, one of the reasons they have a lot of high hopes there this year, is they were one of 5 schools that didn't lose a player to the transfer portal. 5 out of 354. Think about that now. And so it's the Wild West. The NILs you can't do anything about. The transfer portal, you might be able to come up with some kind of reasonable compromise. Because I agree with you, the kids should certainly have the same rights as the coaches to change schools. But the problem with it, and there's some things you can't control. The problem with it is Tom Izzo said to me, you yell at a kid in practice, the next day he's in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Because they grow up not being yelled at anymore. Because the AAU coaches don't want to lose them. High school coaches don't want to lose them because kids transfer in high school all the time now too. And so it's not necessarily the best thing for the players because, yes, they should have the right to transfer. But when they have that right and they leave for the wrong reasons, a lot of times they end up at a place that's not good for them. And a lot of times you could look at the numbers. I haven't looked at them lately, but this summer there were several hundred kids in the transfer portal and basketball who didn't have a school to go to.
Right. That's the tough
not
part.
Good.
No, that's the tough part in the whole thing. The best-selling author John Feinstein, 4 dozen books, more than 20 have been on the bestsellers list. John, Basketball Hall of Famer, all kinds of Hall of Fames that John Feinstein is in, and he's a great guest every time he is good enough to join us here on the PJ Show. So, John, where does that end up? Just to put a bow on the whole expansion, and before we get into the American fallout, where does all of this eventually, in your mind, end up?
Great question, Patrick. I wish I knew the answer because I could probably get pretty rich. We're a long way from putting a bow on it. Let's put it that way. And realignment isn't going to just go away. There are going to be teams, schools looking, and conferences looking to change who they are constantly in order to increase their TV dollars. That's what this is all about. The Big Ten has always had the best TV contract because they were ahead of the curve, creating their own TV network. And they want to keep the bucks going up. The SEC has trailed them, but not by that much, because they've had the best teams in football. The ACC's been way behind because it's not good in football. And please, I don't want to hear from the apologists how good the ACC is in football. They got one good team right now, Florida State. And in the years when Florida State wasn't any good, they had one good team, Clemson. Everybody else is what I call a 6-6 bowl team. Right. Whether they win 6 games or 8 games or 7 games, they're going to play in the Cheez-It Bowl. And I use the Cheez-It Bowl because that's the silliest name among all the silly names. But it's not going to. This isn't going to be the end. I mean, we all know Clemson and Florida State are looking around. That they could end up in the SEC. They could end up in the Big Ten. There were rumors that North Carolina wanted to go to the Big Ten. And I think the only thing that was holding them back was that the Big Ten didn't want Duke as a football team, even though Duke's gotten better now.
Yeah.
But it's not going to end. Like I said to you at the very beginning, the only league I feel confident that won't change is the Ivy League. Everybody else will keep changing.
Well, and when I hear someone say they don't want Duke, here's the reality of all these schools that are moving to these conferences. Somebody's got to finish last.
Yep, somebody's got to finish last. But what matters more to the commissioners and to the presidents and the ADs is how valuable is that team? Does that team bring value?
Yeah.
TV value. I mean, Maryland and Rutgers have been horrible since they went to the Big Ten. I think Maryland's record against the top 4 teams in the Big Ten East through the years now is like 3-40 or something, and they lost their last 4 games at home to Penn State by an average of 40 points per game. I still remember when they first made the move. What was it? 2013 it was announced, or 2014, and I saw this 2012 actually, and I saw David Stern at the Hall of Fame induction. And David was a graduate of Rutgers.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, so what do you think of your alma mater in Maryland going to the Big Ten? He said, that's child abuse. And it was pretty damn and so, but you're right. They didn't bring Maryland and Rutgers in to be good or even be competitive. They brought them in for their TV market. And that's what drives all of this realignment. Why is Washington State why do Washington State, I can speak English, Patrick, and Oregon State not have a conference? Because they're in Corvallis, Oregon, and Pullman, Washington.
Right.
There are 27 TV viewers in those 2 markets. It has nothing to do with the quality of their teams or their schools or anything else.
John, with the American and the addition of Army, to me, that is a survival of the fittest from the standpoint of there's only so many teams as well from an athletic department perspective that can spend at a level to even be in a conference like the American. SMU's attractive to the ACC because they're not going to take money for 7 years, and they have enough money to sustain that on some level. So
for 100 years.
Yeah. So that's Army that can apparently spend at the football level to be competitive. How do you see – because, look, we remember when they were in Conference USA, that almost killed the program.
It was a disaster. It ended with an 0-13 season because having a bad team, they went ahead and said, let's schedule an extra game in Hawaii.
Well, that was the reward. That was the payoff for all the misery. They at least got to go to Hawaii.
But I was asked as early as 1995 when I was doing my Army-Navy book by the Army people, what do you think of us going to Conference USA? And I said, you're crazy. Army needs to have control of its schedule. Paul Johnson turned Navy around years later with a 4-4-4 theory. The theory was schedule 4 games you know you can win, 4 games you're probably going to lose, and 4 toss-ups. And that way, when you're good, you can win 8 to 9 games. When you're not good, you're still going to win 5 or 6 games.
Right.
And it worked. And the Navy started going to bowl games every single year under Paul Johnson after his first season, and continue to do so under Kenny Niumatalolo. Now, since they joined what was then the Big East, what is now the American, they've had some very good teams.
Mm-hmm.
But the last one was 2019 when they went 11-2. And I think the changes in the American will help Navy and will ultimately help Army, because you don't have Houston in the league anymore. You don't have Cincinnati in the league anymore. Notice Cincinnati's 2-7 in the Big 12 this year.
Yeah.
You have UCF, which went 13-0 that one year, and 12-1 another year in the league. Instead, you've got teams like Charlotte and UAB who are beatable, Texas, San Antonio. But I believe, present tense, that both Army and Navy should be independent. And that what they have said is, well, if we're independent, we can't get a schedule. Yes, you can. You know why? Because you're Army and Navy. And people are going to want to play the military academy because it looks good on the schedule, because they're never going to be great. You're always going to have a chance to win against the military academy if you're any good. And they'll get in bowls because there are, 42 bowls now?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you win 6 games, no matter who you are or where you're playing, you're getting in a bowl. And especially if you're Army or Navy or Air Force, which played well in the Mountain West through the years. That's a different league, and Air Force is a different kind of school, even though they're both, it's a military academy. But the point being that I think this is a mistake for Army. I thought it was a mistake for Navy. And Navy's actually done better than I thought it would, which is a tribute to Kenny Niumatalolo and the kids who he was able to recruit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is a mistake for Army, but I also think it's good for the league because it looks good, as I said, on your schedule to play Army and Navy, and they're going to be games you can win. You're not playing Notre Dame or Texas or any of the other powers, Michigan, and you probably won't get spied on by Army and Navy either.
Good stuff. John Feinstein. We're going to have more with John after this timeout, but right now, Dom Kasolki, 94.3 The Game, Sports Update and Pirate Report.
ECU at FAU on Saturday. It's a 4 p.m. kick, and the coverage starts on 94.3 The Game at 11:30 a.m. on Saturday and on the IBX Media app. ECU women's basketball plays their home opener tonight. The banner revealed from the AAC Tourney Championship win. Tip-off at 6 p.m. versus Upstate at Minges Coliseum. The Panthers are taking on the Bears in a matchup of last-place teams. Carolina will visit Chicago tonight for Thursday Night Football at Soldier Field. Coverage begins at 7 on Talk 103.7 WTIB with a kickoff at 8:15. Chicago is favored by 3.5 points. That'll do it for your Pirate Report. We'll be right back with more of the Patrick Johnson Show right after this quick timeout.
Air Service is back at Pitt Greenville Airport, offering safe, clean facilities and flights from American Airlines. That means the short commute, quicker lines, and better prices that get you where you're going fast and easy. See it for yourself. There's great things inside at Pitt Greenville Airport.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers in Greenville, plus the all-new Tiebreakers in Winterville. Do real burgers better than anybody. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, real burgers at its best.
Everybody loves burgers.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast. Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina. Southern living's best small town.
Hey, grab me one too.
Air Service is back at Pitt Greenville Airport, offering safe, clean facilities and flights from American Airlines. That means the short commute, quicker lines, and better prices that get you where you're going fast and easy. See it for yourself. There's great things inside at Pitt Greenville Airport.
R&D Brewing is proud to partner with the ECU Pirates, and now you can enjoy Pirates Brew, the official craft beer of ECU Athletics. Pirates Brew is a carefully curated light beer that embodies the spirit of ECU, a refreshing and easy drinking light beer. Pirates Brew by R&D Brewing is available now at grocery stores, local retailers, and at ECU athletic events.
Head over to your favorite store and enjoy a nice Pirates Brew today, or else you'll walk the plank. Hand me another Pirates Brew. Arr.
Sometimes you just don't know if you want to kiss him or slap him.
Ow!
Either way, he'd probably like it. The Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
John Feinstein is with us. It's always great to catch up with John. Faraday is the book that we talked to him about a few months ago. Would make a great Christmas gift for anyone out there, anything that you're giving for the holidays. The book Faraday about the remarkable life and times of David Faherty, the always entertaining golf analyst, who now is with Liv. I think since we talked to you as well, John, Liv and the PGA have merged. Seems like a strong word. They've played some footsie, and the players are really unhappy about it, obviously, from the PGA side. Several of them are. And we don't have a clue what this is going to look like. It might be more confusing than conference expansion or unknown.
Yeah, you're right. I don't have a clue, and I'm not sure anybody else does. The Justice Department has said it's going to look into whether the merger is legal. Liv has a full schedule right now for next year. How do you incorporate Liv players into the PGA Tour? The world rankings, official world golf rankings, have ruled that Liv events still won't count. And part of that's because it's 54 holes.
Right.
And I think that's legitimate, although it's punitive that they're trying to keep them out.
Mm-hmm.
And so where do the top players from Liv fit in terms of the majors? There are, I think, 6 of them who are major champions who have to be let into the majors. But then there's a bunch more that are very good players that haven't won majors that as of this moment have no status in the world ranking. So you're right. It's at least as confusing as realignment. And I don't know where it's going to end up. I mean, it's certainly not going to end up with a full Liv schedule and a full PGA Tour schedule. Ultimately, you can't have that. They don't fit. But they haven't resolved it yet. And you're right. Jay Monahan pissed off a lot of people when he negotiated in secret. Rory McIlroy was his shield, standing in front of him, saying, "If you want to get to Monahan and the tour, you got to go through me for 16 months." And then Rory woke up one day and there was this knife in his back, and it was Monahan who put the knife in his back.
Right.
Tour. And if you're Rory McIlroy, how does that make you feel? Not good, I don't think.
No. Does Monahan survive all this ultimately?
I don't think so. I'm actually, but to show you what I know, I'm surprised he's still there now. So maybe he will. But I don't see how he does, because so many players who stuck with the tour, who turned down, literally in some cases, hundreds of millions of guaranteed dollars, have to be furious with him for negotiating in secret. And he didn't even talk to his policy board about the negotiations until they were basically done. So I would be surprised, but he'll walk off with a $15 million golden umbrella or
right.
something like that.
But don't you, in a way, do you kind of buy that the tour had to do this, or at least something?
That's to give an excuse that they were going to run out of money, and obviously Liv wasn't going to run out of money. And but again, the secrecy thing is an issue regardless.
Sure.
And the other thing is, okay, you say that I want to see your book. It's like when the Major League Baseball owners always pleaded poverty whenever there was a work stoppage in baseball, and the players would say, "Okay, show us your book." Oh no, we can't do that. So until and unless I see the books that prove that they're hurting that much financially, I'm not buying it.
Last week, Bob Knight died, and that is the book, Season on the Brink, that sort of launched it all for you. Yep. What were the emotions, the thoughts when you learned of his death?
Well, I had known that he was sick, Patrick, that he had dementia. And I'm still close with a number of his close friends out in Indiana. So I'd been told this was coming. In fact, on his birthday, October 25th, I had called a couple friends who I knew would go see him because it was his birthday. And a couple of them told me, that he was completely out of it, which happens, as you know, at the end with dementia. And that it was probably at most a week. And he died exactly 1 week later. So it didn't come as a shock to me. I was certainly prepared for it mentally and emotionally. But it's sad. It's sad for anybody to die that way. Dean Smith died of dementia. And one of the saddest ironies to me is probably the two best memories of any one I've known in sports were Dean Smith and Bob Knight. They both died of dementia. How sad is that? And I've always had, since I wrote Season on the Brink, a complicated relationship with Bob. I can never thank him enough for the access he gave me, which made that book what it was. On the other hand, he called me a lot of names after the book came out. And I always tell the story that in 1994, 8 years after the book was published, I was in Hawaii covering the Maui Classic, and I was walking back into the hotel one afternoon with Gary Williams. Knight and a friend of his, Bob Murray, who helped him put on his clinics, were walking through the lobby, and they stopped when they saw us coming. And I remember Gary saying, "Uh-oh, here we go." And Bob couldn't have been friendlier. He acted like we last talked a week earlier or something. How are you? I hear you had a son. How's that going? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And when they walked away, Gary looked at me and said, "After all the names he called you, why would you speak to him?" And I said, "Because he built my house." and it's true. He did.
Yeah.
And he helped build my career.
Yeah.
So I've always been grateful to him for that. And yet I've seen the other side up close and personal. Bob could be a bully, was a bully. He was certainly a misogynist. He treated people who were close to him at one point very badly, most notably Mike Krzyzewski. And I always found that sad. Bob always had to have the last word in any argument on any subject. And he was as self-destructive and as brilliant as anybody I ever met. So he was certainly someone you couldn't explain in a sentence.
He was close with Dean Smith. A lot of his players that he was that played for him in a lot of cases were fiercely loyal to them and vice versa. I don't think you could deny what he meant to the game of basketball. That's, this is all part of the complicated legacy. But I mean, it just seemed like, and as you said, even some of those close to him, it got bad for some of them as far as the relationship. But that's just, and then there's the famous thing circulating around these parts, as you can imagine, about what he had to say about Michael Jordan during the Olympic situation, about the best basketball player ever that he approached.
He said that to me on a number of occasions.
Yeah. So I mean, it's and it could, like you just said, turn on a dime. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. That was Bob Knight. I've always said the only gray in his life was his hair, because he either loved you or he hated you. I experienced both. There was never any in between with him in an argument. He could never lose an argument. He had to win arguments. No matter what the subject was. I still remember we were out to dinner one night the year I was there, and it was before an NBC game, and Al McGuire was there, who was close to Bob. And we went out to, about 8 of us went out to dinner, and somehow we got in a conversation about the famous 1971 Pennsylvania team that was 28-0 going into the regional final and got crushed by Villanova. And Bob made the comment that he had scouted that game because Ohio State was still alive and Fred Taylor was his college coach. And he was still at Army at the time. And he said, that team was 28-1, and then they got crushed. And I said, no, Bob, they were actually 28-0, and then they got crushed. And he said, John, I was at the game. They were 28-1. And I said, because I could be kind of a jerk myself, I said, I'll bet you $10,000 they didn't pass that they were 28-0. He said, well, I'm not going to take $10,000 from you. I'll bet you $100. I said, you got it. So there was no internet at that time. And so Knight sent Bob Hamill, the sports editor of the Bloomington paper, who was his man Friday, to call the paper and have them look it up. So a few minutes later, Bob comes back, and he's white as a sheet. And he says, and Knight says, well, and he says, Bob, Penn was 28-0 going into that game. And Knight turns and he points a finger at me, and he says, I don't want to hear another word about your blanking memory. Because he couldn't just say that I was right.
Right.
And he never paid me the $100. More than made up for it.
Right. you'd have framed
that
it.
was Bob. He just
Yeah.
And Dean Smith, as smart a man as I ever met, Mike Krzyzewski, as smart a man as I ever met, they were wrong about things at times. Dean Smith took Maktar Jai as a transfer. Mike Krzyzewski recruited Joey Beers, over Joe Smith, for crying out loud. So no matter how smart you are, no matter how good you are at something, you're going to make mistakes. And the smartest thing to do is say, hey, I made a mistake, and try not to repeat that mistake.
Right.
But Bob never made it.
Well, I know you've talked about this before, last thing for you, but in getting that access, because you were fairly, you were known in certain circles, but you weren't John Feinstein wants to do a book on you. How did you gain the trust and the access to get that access?
Well, I had covered his 1981 national championship team for the Post. Covered all 6 games because Maryland played them in the second round. So I saw him from the beginning that year. And I also covered his 84 Olympic team. And so I'd gotten to know him. I'd written a couple magazine pieces about him. I wrote one about his coaching proteges that he really liked because I described how he helped prepare Mike Krzyzewski, Dave Bliss, Bob Weltlich, whomever you want to name, Jim Cruz, to be head coaches. And he had called me after that magazine piece. It was in Sporting News and said, listen, whenever you want to come out for some reason, just let me know. So I had. And so we had a good relationship. And after he threw the chair in 85, I happened to be in Bloomington before he threw the chair.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd given me total access for 2 days. Team meetings, locker room practices, everything. And I wrote a long piece about him right after he threw the chair. And he called me again. And he said, look, I know you had to write about the chair. I understand that. But you were fair. You told both sides of the story, and I appreciate it. I said, well, that's because you gave me the access you did, Bob, that allowed me to do that. And he invited me to a dinner that he used to have at the Final Four with his coaches, friends, buddies, 10 or 15 people. And I realized that he was inviting me into his inner sanctum.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought if I could get access for a season the way I had for those 2 days, there might be a book in it. I'd never written a book, so I didn't know what the hell a book was. But after the dinner that night, it was Saturday night, just when they used to play the Final Four games at a reasonable hour on Saturday. I said, if you got a minute to talk, he said, sure, come on back to the room. He was rooming with Pete Newell, the great Pete Newell, who was one of his mentors. And so Coach Newell, Bob, myself, and Mike Krzyzewski went back to the room because Krzyzewski and I were doing a clinic the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to discuss exactly what they were going to do. So when they were done, Bob said, what can I do for you, John? So I told him what I'd been thinking. And he said, have you ever written a book? I said, no. He said, do you have a publisher? I said, well, I didn't think there was much point in trying to get a publisher until I talked to you. And he said, well, that was a good thing. As it turned out, by the way, 5 publishers turned the book down.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But so he said, well, if you can get a publisher, come on out. So Krzyzewski and I leave, the door closes, and Mike looks at me and he says, are you out of your blanking mind? And I said, what? He said, you're volunteering to spend a winter with him? And I said, well, you played for him. You coached for him. He said, I needed to go to college. You've been to college. I needed a job. You have a job. You're out of your blanking mind. So I said, well, I'm going to try to do it anyway. I probably won't get a publisher. And as I said, 5 publishers turned the book down. But I did eventually get a publisher, Macmillan. And I called him back and said, are you still up to do this? And he said, yeah, come on out. I did. You know the rest.
Unreal. Hey, John.
It was kind of unreal if you think about it.
Yeah, it really is. It's a great story how that came together. Crazy. John, you know how much I admire you, and you're one of the best, and I appreciate your time always. So
glad to do it, Patrick.
We'll talk soon.
Good luck to the Pirates this week. Good luck to the Mids when they play one another. They're both going to need it.
They are. Thanks, John. Take care.
Okay. See you, Patrick. Bye.
All right, there he is, the great John Feinstein. Great to have him on with us. All right, we'll take a break. And when we get back, we will wrap up the show for you today. It's the Patrick Johnson Show. So,
Air Service is back at Pitt Greenville Airport, offering safe, clean facilities and flights from American Airlines. That means the short commute, quicker lines, and better prices that get you where you're going fast and easy. See it for yourself. There's great things inside at Pitt Greenville Airport.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers in Greenville, plus the all-new Tiebreakers in Winterville, do real burgers better than anybody. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, real burgers at its best.
Everybody loves burgers.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast. Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina. Southern living's best small town.
Hey, grab me one too.
Air Service is back at Pitt Greenville Airport, offering safe, clean facilities and flights from American Airlines. That means the short commute, quicker lines, and better prices that get you where you're going fast and easy. See it for yourself. There's great things inside at Pitt Greenville Airport.
R&D Brewing is proud to partner with the ECU Pirates, and now you can enjoy Pirates Brew, the official craft beer of ECU Athletics. Pirates Brew is a carefully curated light beer that embodies the spirit of ECU, a refreshing and easy drinking light beer. Pirates Brew by R&D Brewing is available now at grocery stores, local retailers, and at ECU athletic events.
Head over to your favorite store and enjoy a nice Pirates Brew today, or else you'll walk the plank. Hand me another Pirates Brew. Arr.
Stunning conclusion of the show. It's the P-Man here on 94.3 The Game.
Okay, welcome back. Great to have John Feinstein on today. Great interview with John. We have Pirate football coming your way this weekend, 4 o'clock, a 3 o'clock airtime on 107.9 WNCT. So note that if you're going to be out and about, you can pick up the game anywhere in Eastern North Carolina on 107.9 WNCT. We will join that game in progress here on 94.3 The Game on Saturday. We're going to have Pirate Game Day Countdown fueled by Busch Light from 11 to 2. Excuse me, from 11:30 to 1:30. And then we're going to have basketball on 94.3 The Game, ECU and Campbell. That's a 2 o'clock tip. Darren Vaught and Coach Perry will be on the call there. Of course, you can always watch that as well on ESPN Plus with Cy Seymour and yours truly. And then once the basketball game and the postgame show wraps up, we'll jump right in to football, where they are at that point. Probably be about midway through the well, that might actually be close to the midway the first quarter, probably. I would guess, or close to the end of the first quarter. We'll see, but that'll be on 94.3 The Game. Panthers and Bears tonight, 7 o'clock on 103.7 WTIB, Talk 103.7, and that'll kick at 8:15. You can listen to the Panthers radio network on there if you're brave enough to do that. A couple of news and notes from today. LaDante Felton, who is the younger brother of R.J. Felton, has signed a national letter of intent with ECU. He's either number 1 or number 2 in the in point guard rankings for the state of South Carolina, so that's a pretty big deal. And then our guy Shane Winkler has signed a really good class for ECU softball. It was announced today. A pitcher, Kendall Frost, Jenna Kroll, who is a catcher and an outfielder, Ava Fisher, who is a pitcher and plays first out of the New Jersey area, Gabby Fowler, who's a third baseman and catcher from Indiana, and out of Raleigh and Wakefield High School, Brooke Massengale, who is also a catcher and an outfielder. So this is a really big, in the softball circles, class, according to experts, and Shane Winkler doing a great job, he and his staff. And they're looking forward to getting that group onto campus next year. So all of those seniors will be coming to ECU, and that's really great stuff. Happy to have them as part of springtime here in Pirate Nation. All right, well, that'll do it for today's program. Tomorrow we'll talk to you about Team Boneyard. Really interesting thing. They've got the new board members. We're going to meet one of them tomorrow. Be on at 6 o'clock, so take note of that. Brian Mull will also be with us, and Mull will be talking college basketball. Tons of it tomorrow. That's intriguing. We'll also preview ECU and Campbell basketball with them. So that's all on Friday. We'll be on after the Logan Zone at 2 o'clock. Thanks for coming. Just hope you have a great evening.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligator. And I'm Jessica. For 11 years, quality driveway. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveway built the way you want.
Call AA Hauling 252-946-1227 or AAHauling.com.
R&D Brewing is proud to partner with the ECU Pirates, and now you can enjoy Pirates Brew, the official craft beer of ECU Athletics. Pirates Brew is a carefully curated light beer that embodies the spirit of ECU, a refreshing and easy drinking light beer. Pirates Brew by R&D Brewing is available now at grocery stores, local retailers, and at ECU athletic events.
Head over to your favorite store and enjoy a nice Pirates Brew today, or else you'll walk the plank. Hand me another Pirates Brew. Arr.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast. Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina. Southern Living's best small town.
Hey Pirate Nation, I'm head men's basketball coach Mike Schwartz.
And I'm Kim McNeil, head coach of your defending American Athletic Conference champion women's basketball team.
Basketball season is just around the corner, and we're looking forward to another exciting season on the hardwood.
We need Pirate Nation to Pat Minji's Coliseum by purchasing your season tickets today.
Call 1-800-DIAL-ECU or visit ECUPirates.com to get yours now.
Thanks, and go Pirates.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligator.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
Call AA Hauling 252-946-1227 or AAHauling.com.
I'm a big mood. You can't name a lot of things that I didn't do. It's like a paper, like a book, not a Kindle. You outdated, I'm the one they getting into. And I break a sweat. Let's get it. 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 Child, please, I don't need a towel.
Are you game day ready? Anson Belt, the official belt of ECU Athletics.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.